I told you guys that if we signed off of our 8-hour long free agency live stream, that something was then, of course, going to happen. And of course, something then happened. And the Blazers have signed Gary Payton II to a 3-year, $28 million deal. What in the world does this mean for the Portland Trail Blazers? I'm going to discuss that. We might have Eric Bethop back on, but I tried calling him. He's not there. He isn't responding, so we will see. But, yeah. How's everybody doing today? Long time no see. So I was ready to just kind of relax for the rest of the night. Exhausted after streaming 8 hours. But the Portland Trail Blazers had to go and do something. So we're going to discuss it and, yeah. Anyway, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around this, and the first takeaway I have is there has to be something else, because I don't understand how Cronin watched the struggles the past couple of years with the lack of size and then just decided, you know what, instead of a 3-guard lineup, let's try a 4-guard lineup. I like Gary Payton II defensively. Offensively, he is hit or miss. Would have made much more sense to go out and get Derrick Jones Jr. for this sort of price tag. Similar defensive player and athlete, just bigger. More size for the forward position. Yeah, I don't understand what the plan is here. Because you got Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Josh Hart, Keon Johnson even, young prized acquisition in the Robert Covington-Norman Powell trade. You got Shaedon Sharpe, and you got Nasir Little. These are all point guard, shooting guard, small forwards. And now you just add Gary Payton II into the mix. And, I mean, this just says to me that either Josh Hart is gone or Josh Hart is going to probably start at the small forward spot. Either Josh Hart is gone or he's playing small forward. Because the Blazers just went out and spent their full mid-level exception on a guard. When Otto Porter Jr. is out there, when you got Derrick Jones Jr. out there, I mean, you got a couple of forward targets that could make a lot of sense for Portland. They do not have a backup 4 or a backup 5 right now. Actually, they don't even have their starting 5 right now, because who knows what's going on with Jusuf Nurkic? Who knows? He was supposed to sign at the start of free agency. That's what everybody expected. And it is about 10:58 p.m. So we are 8 hours into free agency. Jusuf Nurkic hasn't signed yet. Which makes me think that the Blazers are up to something on the trade market, and they're going to include Josh Hart's salary, and they went out and signed Gary Payton II to replace Josh Hart's role, and I don't feel too good about that. I have a sneaky suspicion that the Blazers are going after DeAndre Ayton in a sign-and-trade using Josh Hart and Jusuf Nurkic. I am not a fan of that. I talked about that a lot on my free agency stream. I think Ayton potentially on a max is a bit overrated. Maybe the Blazers can get him cheaper, but I'm just very confused right now. I feel like Portland's going to help the Suns get Kevin Durant, and we're going to get DeAndre Ayton, and I just, my head's kind of spinning right now, because here's the problem when you bring in a Gary Payton II. Originally, you had Damon Ant as the starting guards, and then Hart is the third guard. Then at the small forward position, you had Nasir Little, you had Shaedon Sharpe. By bringing in Gary Payton II, who has the same standing reach as Anthony Simons, and he's shorter than Anthony Simons, he's 6'2", you just brought in a guard. So you have to bump Josh Hart from his backup guard role, which is now Gary Payton II, I guess, and you're bumping Josh Hart up to the small forward position. You have Shaedon Sharpe there as well, who's supposedly going to get playing time. So where does that leave Nasir Little? I think it potentially bumps him up to the backup power forward position. So you have Nasir Little, undersized for the power forward position, You have Josh Hart, undersized for the small forward position. You have Shaedon Sharpe, adequately sized for the small forward position. And then you got 3 guards, none of whom is bigger than 6'3". So basically you got, how many players is that? 6 players in your rotation. And we don't even have any centers right now, technically. Out of the 7 rotation players we have under contract, 6 of them would be undersized for where they're playing. And this has been the problem with Portland. I don't understand it. So I'm expecting either a follow-up trade, which would make this make more sense, or I'm just baffled as to why Joe Cronin wanted to really try to be Neil Olshey. I mean, he made a Neil Olshey type pick, swinging for upside high regarded prospect. I love the Shaedon Sharpe pick, but I think that was a very Neil Olshey pick. This is a Neil Olshey move. You got a 6'2" guard when you already have guards. You have guards on guards on guards. You know, you got a couple small forwards. We need a backup power forward and a backup center, and to resign Yusuf Nurkic. And the first move, other than resigning our starting shooting guard, is to sign a backup combo guard. Help me make it make sense, guys. So we'll see what the follow-up trade is, but I really like having Josh Hart on this team. I don't like the idea of signing Gary Payton II to trade Josh Hart. I really like having Josh Hart on this team. Anyway, let me take a couple donos. Shout out Liam Best, $2 Australian dono. He says, we've got dogs gonna bark other teams into defeat. Thank you, Liam, for the dono. That's funny, man. Shout out Embarking Box, $2 dono says, can we use Bledsoe's contract in an Ayton trade? We can. We can. So maybe we will, but gut feeling says Ayton. I mean, what else could Portland be going after with the Josh Hart contract? For anybody saying trades are happening. They're going to trade Hart. What are they going to trade him for? I'm curious. Like, I'm not expecting people to have the answers. I'm just curious who they think that Portland could trade Josh Hart for. Yeah, they could trade him for OG Anunoby. Guess what? You can play Sharpe as the backup guard and Nas as the backup 3 behind OG. In that situation, it still makes sense to sign an Otto Porter Jr. to be the backup power forward instead of bumping Nas up to the backup 4 and playing Sharpe at the backup 3 and Gary Payton as the backup guard. I mean, I don't know. Gary Payton II can defend. He's a really good defensive player. It's just kind of sad that we had him in training camp like 3-4 years ago and cut him. I mean, this dude played 17 minutes a game last year. For Golden State, here's what I'm worried about, guys. Golden State has had a tendency to make players look better than they actually are. Does anybody remember Ian Clark? Does anybody remember Eric Paschall? Golden State has a tendency to make players look better because of the talent they have and the system they have. Gary Payton only played 10 games last season in 2020-2021. 10 games. Was basically like out of the league. The year before that, played 29 games for Washington. Was basically out of the league. He has only had one season where he's proven to be an NBA caliber player. Not even an NBA starter or an NBA role player. He's only had one season where he's been in the league the entire year. Only one. And it's with Golden State, who makes players like this look really good. And Portland goes out and signs him to a 3-year, $28 million contract. When they already have a bunch of guards. I mean, somebody please tell me how that makes a ton of sense. I don't understand it at all. I mean, really good defensive player, but shooting's questionable. I don't get it. I don't get it. This could end up being a good signing, but without a follow-up move, this makes no sense to me. So unless, we're trying to win the 6-3 and under championship, I don't really understand it. Anyway. Eric, I'm going to call you and get your take on it. If you are here. Okay, cool. Let me fix my camera because my camera below this is messed up. Are you? Okay. Okay. What are you eating, Eric?
I just went and got McDonald's real quick, came back, and we decided Gary Payton.
Of course we did. You know how I said we were going to sign somebody if we... Mm-hmm. Yep. That's just how it goes, man. That's just how it has to go for whatever reason. So, anyway, I don't know how much of the stream you've heard.
I didn't catch the beginning, but yeah, I've caught most of it.
I mean, I'm just very confused right now. And I also am worried that this could end up being an overpay for a guy who's only been an NBA player for one full-time season. Like, he's been out of the league every year before this, and Golden State has a tendency to make these guys look pretty dang good. So I'm just worried about what the overall plan is, if this is even a good signing, and whatnot.
Yeah, so we use the term in a vacuum, to describe trades usually, but in this case, in a vacuum, we would think getting a good perimeter point of attack defender, someone who's really savvy at getting through screens like we talked about earlier, someone who's like a get in your face, can set the tone on defense type of guy. Very nice, right? Mm-hmm. So I like that. But yeah, much like the Lou Dort stuff, didn't make a lot of sense other than we're using it to get assets when we were talking about it. We were getting 12 and Dort maybe. So you maybe make a way for that to work. And I know both Hart and Gary Payton can guard bigger players effectively. Just don't understand why we would give away a bunch of players to then sign more guards and draft a guard. And I don't know. It's not adding up to me. But I like Gary Payton as a player. Obviously, he went to Oregon State. So yeah, I root for him as a person and stuff like that. But to give him that much money too, it's kind of scary. As you mentioned, he hasn't even played like really a full season with the team. We actually had him in training camp a few years ago and cut him. If he was so good, why would the Warriors have not initially brought him back last year?
Yeah.
And I know he had a key part in their championship run, and I really respect his grind and commitment to be a good player and stuff like that. But I don't know how we make this work without some sort of other move, obviously. So, and we haven't signed Nurk yet. So,
I mean, maybe Cronin was being very literal when he said he wanted a team full of Josh Harts.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he meant that at point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. Because who knows what's up with Nurkic?
Well, even if we trade Hart, I mean, we still have Sharp, still have Nas, and the reports from Chris Haynes were that Sharp was going to play this year, so it's not someone we're going to like bring along slowly or whatever. I just don't understand what's going on here.
I mean,
obviously this signifies.
If we don't have a follow-up trade, I think it's Dame and Gary Payton, 3-guard rotation. I think Josh Hart's the starting 3, Shaedon Sharp's the backup 3, Jeremy Grant's the starting 4, Nasir Little's the backup 4.
Yeah.
And then you have Nurkic, I guess, and then who knows who the backup center is. Watford, maybe?
Maybe the backup or the Matisse Thybulle thing. Maybe like Philadelphia's keeping him now or something, but I mean, that's a guy who was going to make 4.3 million next year and would be a restricted free agent. So you have like a year to kind of test it out. It would, even if it cost you a couple seconds to get him, I feel like a 1 year flyer on a guy like that to be a defensive stopper, if that's what you're bringing him in for, is a lot better than signing someone on a 3-year, $28 million contract. And I just hate that's. I don't understand why that was our focus of the mid-level. Like, if we're going to use the mid-level exception, which we pretty much used all of, why are we targeting these undersized guards? Like, I don't get it. At least, like with Norm, he could shoot, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I know Payton can finish around the basket well, but actually really good. He's almost like elite at that, but yeah, I don't know. He can play defense, obviously. Yeah, we know that. He's a good player. Yeah.
People say GP2 is a generational defender. If he was a generational defender, he probably would have cracked it into the league before this past season.
Mm-hmm.
But he couldn't stay in the league. So he's a good, solid role player because of his defense and because his shot was solid last year on like very open threes, and he's a smart offensive player. But I mean, I don't know. It's just, I don't understand the area of focus. I don't understand what the plan is. And I don't understand what's up with Nurkic. I mean, I'm just very, 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 very confused as to what the vision is for this team. Obviously, you try and get better defensively, but, I mean, Cronin even talked about, or alluded to the fact that they maybe needed more size. That's been the running conversation in Portland, is the 3-guard lineup was a joke. Dame, CJ. I mean, people said for years, Dame and CJ is way too undersized to work no matter who else you have. Okay, and then it's like, oh, the 3-guard lineup with Dame, CJ, and Norb, that can't work. And now it's like, you got 3 guards, a shooting guard small forward type that you just drafted at 7, a small forward who's like undersized for the 4, and you go out and you sign an undersized guard. It doesn't add up to me.
And I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but don't come in here and tell us we're depressing and all that stuff. Like, it's so dumb. So we didn't like Stotts. We get called the most negative a-holes around for years. And then last year we were actually positive about the team, and everyone's like, you guys are way too positive. You need to be more negative and critical.
You know what they said? They said, you guys are way too positive. This team is way too undersized to work.
Undersized. Now, and then now it's back to, we're too negative again. But this is exactly so.
So wait, should we care about the size and the length of the players on this team or not? Because we got criticized for not caring enough to enter last year. We were too positive for how undersized the team was. This 3-guard lineup will never work. You guys need to stop being so positive. Okay? And now it's like, okay, we need more length and size. Why did we just sign a guard? Oh, you guys are too negative. It's a joke.
It was DJ Vega, I think, that said, like, you guys were fine with Norm starting at the 3. Well, one, he is actually much longer than Gary Payton is.
Yeah, 3-inch taller standing reach, by the way.
Yeah, so, okay, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, like, yeah, people come in and just, like, insult us, but, like, we're the a-holes. Like, we're known as, like, the people who always interact poorly with other people when it's you guys being the jerks right now. So either leave and don't watch us or keep your mouth shut when it comes to, like, disagreeing with us. If you have something to like argue back at what we're saying, if you want to have a basketball discussion, go right ahead. But this has nothing to do with Gary Payton. He is a great defender. He would have been a perfect third guard for us had we needed a third guard. So my problem is I don't think that was a need for us. Now, maybe we make a trade in the next day or two that makes it so it is a need. We did need a third guard, and it looks better. But even with that, it still feels like 3 years with the player option and incentives for it to be more than $28 million. Paying for a defensive specialist, it seems like an overpay right now onto what you could have gotten maybe a similar player in a trade or on the open market. So
yeah, I mean, guess what? You guys can like the Gary Payton the second signing because he's a really good defensive player, and that's obviously where Portland needs to get better.
That's what I said, in a vacuum, right?
Yeah. It's just like we got criticism for not taking into account player height and player, length and that sort of thing, and we liked the roster going into last season. Admittedly, that roster obviously wasn't very good, but we liked the roster going into last season, and people just said, oh, well, it's too undersized to work, okay? Now, we're saying, okay, well, fine then, let's get more size, and we're not. So, I wanted a little bit more length than an undersized backup guard. So, I mean, I just feel like, there's always going to be people that criticize it, no matter what. When you give your opinion on the freaking internet, that's just how it's going to go. But don't come here and insult me. You can disagree.
Toxic,
not everybody's going to agree with every single thing. There's going to be disagreement. Just don't be toxic. Because people come in here and insult us like crazy. We respond, and then we're the assholes, and it gets frustrating. Anyway, so shout out to Tate Plays, $5 dono. Appreciate the support. Says, does a trade hard cap us? No, it does not. This signing does hard cap us, though. This MLE signing hard caps us at $157 million, so our salary cannot go over that. So if we're trying to, do a signing trade for DeAndre Ayton, our salary can't go over $157 mil. Thank you, Tay Plays, for the $5 dono. Shout out Elias, $2 dono, says, look at his free throw percentage. Yeah, his free throw percentage is not good. What did he shoot last year? Last year, Gary Payton, it was 60%. That's not good. Career 57% free throw shooter. Not ideal. And then shout out Elias with a $5 dono who said, I talked to Nas. He's grown 2 to 3 inches in this off season. I wish, man. I wish. Anyway, thank you for the donos.
DJ Vega says these small players are actually good at defense, unlike Norm. Good point, once again. But now we just paid our mid-level exception and got hard capped for what's basically a fourth at best, fifth, maybe if Sharp's really good, guard, after we just gave our starting shooting guard $25 million to go along with our franchise guard in Dame. So we have those two guards already that are going to need playing time. Now, Gary Payton, sure, could play a little bit next to those guys, even if he's undersized, great. But we already had Hart for that role, and I like Hart a lot. And so I like Gary Payton. I like Josh Hart. I don't like overpaying for Gary Payton to then trade Hart unless it's for a definite upgrade with him. Now, I could be sitting here, I'll take that back and say, you know what? I didn't like it at the time, but moving Hart makes sense now because we got so-and-so player, and that's great. If that's DeAndre Ayton, I still hate it. I don't like it. I'd rather just re-sign Nurk, kept Josh Hart, and not pay Gary Payton $8 million, $9 million a year, and then not paid DeAndre Ayton a near max or max contract. That's just me, and that's how I feel. So it has nothing to do with the player itself. I think it's fine. Just with what we had and still have as holes on the roster, and what we heard about needing long athletic wings and forwards and bigs, and to improve our athleticism and overall length and stuff like that, and then to build a roster around several guard players once again, it just, in order for it to be different this time with Dame and Ant, a lot of that will depend on Ant's growth, obviously, as a defender. But we also, I think, needed to try something different at the forward spots that we weren't doing before. And I just feel like we're not really doing enough to change that up. Now, Jeremy Grant could come in and be perfect. Gary Payton could just play a minimal role off the bench and be fine, but it's still overpaying if he plays that role. So how are you going to find, like, because to me, using that asset on a player, if we were going to use the full mid-level exception and get hard capped, it needed to be for sure, like 25-minute a night guy, which Gary Payton could play 25 minutes on a lot of teams, but I don't see how he's going to get 25 minutes on this roster. Yeah, it's it doesn't make sense right now, and I'm sick of let Cronin cook before you judge him or whatever. I've been hearing that since the trade deadline.
Yeah. We got somebody arguing that we didn't just use the full mid-level exception. Anil, me and Eric know the CBA like the back of our hands, my guy. The taxpayer mid-level exception is up to $6,340,000. Okay, if you go over the taxpayer mid-level exception at all in regards to your MLE money, you get hard capped. The full mid-level exception is up to about 10.2 or 3 or 4 million, somewhere in there.
It went up to like 10.5 today, and the taxpayer was 6.5.
Yeah, that's the most you can spend for the MLE, but that's not how much you have to spend to hard cap. You don't just spend more than that and then you get hard cap. That's the most you get in terms of MLE money. But the most you get without getting hard capped is the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is $6,340,000. Trust me, man, we know this stuff like the back of our hands. That's what it is. If you don't want to believe us, then that's fine, but like Eric is the cap CBA expert in regards to, anybody that covers this Portland Trailblazer team, man. And I've studied the thing. I've studied the team too. They are hard capped right now after this signing. Believe me. Just believe me, man. Like, I tried to explain, and that's why I'm explaining right now. They are hard capped. So their salary can't go above approximately $157 million. Aeromancer has a $2 dono, says, does the hard cap apply to Nurkic's contract? Thank you, Aeromancer, for the $2 dono. Yes. No matter what, the team salary cannot go above $157 million, and that includes players' salary, and that includes the $2.8 million of dead money the Blazers have on the cap right now because of Andrew Nicholson, and if the Blazers waive Eric Bledsoe, then that would be more dead money that count against that. So that number can't go above $157 million.
Mm-hmm. But most likely, if they have to cut Bledsoe, stretch that out. So yay, more dead money on the books for several more years.
Yep. So,
so Tim Wilson says, chat, just stop disagreeing with these guys. They obviously get upset and want everyone to agree with them. Man, way to not listen at all. I disagree with me as much as you want.
How many times do we have to freaking say that?
Yeah.
I literally said this like 5 times. Disagree with us. That's fine. Great. Good for you. I don't care.
And this is the problem, okay? We say, hey, stop saying we suck and tell us why. Back up your opinion. Just to come in here and say these guys suck because they don't like the signing, then say why you like it or whatever, and we'll talk to you about that, right? Let's have a good basketball discussion. That's the whole point of having a chat, is so you guys can interact with us and we can chat back and discuss things. And we like when people disagree or push back against what we say if they are talking about basketball arguments. But when you start insulting us, just please stop. So, yeah. That is not what I said. I said, wow, Tim Wilson. See, you don't even listen, Tim. I said, keep your mouth shut if you're going to come in here and insult us instead of having a basketball discussion. And then we're known, once again, we're the jerks, right?
Yeah.
We're the jerks.
Because we don't like being insulted. Yeah, screw off,
yeah.
Man. I mean, that's the thing. We don't like being insulted. That's what Eric was talking about. Anyway, yeah. Time, yeah. We shouldn't. You're right, man. We shouldn't focus on trolls, man. It just gets frustrating. We were dealing with some of them at the end of our stream. We just got off being live after like an 8-hour free agency stream. It's been a long, long day, man. And we're just kind of on edge. But as far as Gary Payton II goes, I mean, at least he plays defense. Like, at least he'll give effort, that sort of thing. That was a problem last year, and that was very frustrating as a fan to watch a team that lacked energy, that lacked effort. So I am happy with the fact that they get somebody that plays some defense. Just very questionable in terms of like going with the undersized route again. And I mean, part of the reason why me and Eric are frustrated, because their first time watching us, we got a lot of hate for not caring enough about player size and length and height and whatnot. And now it's like, now that we're saying, oh, we have too many undersized players, now we're getting hate for that too. So, I mean, that's what we should expect. We should expect to always get hate, but it's just kind of ridiculous. Anyway.
All right, so assuming I don't know what his starting salary would be, Gary Payton's. It would have to be
there was
close.
Like incentives too, so we have to account for that with the hard cap.
Yep. Well, let's just say it was $28 million with 5% raises or whatever it ends up being. So it'd probably be like 8.5 maybe starting if it's $28 million, somewhere around there. So I'm just trying to figure out where his salary is. So that means we're still under the hard cap by about $21 million. So you'd think you could still, or that's with cutting Bledsoe without stretching him. So we're still pretty good in terms of the hard cap with 12 players under the roster, I believe. Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's 12 players. So if you still re-sign Nurkic, that's 13, or if you sign and trade him for whatever, that's 13, where whoever our starting center is. And then we'd need to sign one other player after that at least, or you could sign up to 2 more players. So even if you sign Nurkic to like 17 million, you'd still easily be able to sign a couple of minimum contracts after that. You might, if you stretch Bledsoe, you could probably use the rest of the full mid-level exception, but I mean, 2 million doesn't really, it's not much more than the minimum. So I don't know if that's going to come into play. Maybe they use part of that to sign Jabari Walker to the actual team and then just sign someone else on a 2-way. So there's still options there. But yeah. The thing about it though is this does make it harder to trade Bledsoe because like I said, we have a little bit of wiggle room, but now it's pretty much a case where we're going to have to cut him. We cannot carry his contract unless I guess we could keep him and then sign 2 minimums, but I think that's too much money. So, and then who's playing center? So I think we're pretty much stuck to having to cut him, can't trade him now, unless it's for someone making 4 or 5 million or less, and then also maybe we sign Nurk to a little less, or we do something different there at center. I don't know what we're gonna do, but it just makes the math not check up as much. I'm just a little confused on what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a good follow-up trade with Hart, I guess the signing's completely fine. Like, it's just, I just don't really see how the pieces fit. You just have a lot of guys that are perimeter, guards, or guys that maybe should be playing the guard spot. I don't really know how the pieces fit in a way that makes sense. So, I mean, I'll wait and see. I feel like gut feeling says Hart and Nurkic for Peyton is like something that Cronin's going after, and I'm not a big fan of that because I think Josh Hart is literally the perfect third guard for Portland. It was phenomenal here, averaged like 20 points per game, like 7 rebounds and 4 assists for the Blazers when he played here last year. Yeah, that was a team without much talent, but I think Hart is absolutely perfect. So I don't like giving up on Hart. I think he's perfect and the type of culture guy we needed, the type of guy that just plays super hard. I mean, Gary Payton fills those qualities too, but I just don't really understand it, man. It's either the plan is to start Hart at the 3, and he has a shorter standing reach than Norman Powell, by the way, so everybody complaining about like 3-guard lineup, they should have a problem with that too. Or the plan is to trade Hart and maybe with Nurk for like Payton, which I would have rather had Hart, Nurk, and then the MLE signing on a forward than Gary Payton for the MLE and then Ayton. People are higher on Ayton than me. I'm lower on Ayton. And here's the thing with like trading for OG. If we trade Hart for OG, it still makes sense to use the MLE on a forward instead. And then you play Sharp at a backup guard spot. You play Nas at the backup 3. You sign the MLE for a backup 4. Instead, even if we trade Hart for OG, you're playing Gary Payton II at a backup guard spot. You're playing Sharp at a backup small forward spot, and then you'd be playing Nas at the backup 4. So you're just going smaller. I thought, that they maybe needed a couple more bigger defensive options because that would allow them to match up with other teams a little bit better, and that's not going to be as doable if you with just smaller defensive players, man. Is how I look at it. So anyway.
Yeah. You want to cut up on donuts?
Yeah. Anyway, shout out to, let's see, Dillo Bestie 0 $2 dono. Thank you. Says people also forget the Grant trade isn't done. Yeah, maybe Nerlens Noel gets thrown in and then they sign and trade Nurk. I don't know, but that's the thing. Any extra salary gets thrown in puts Portland up against that hard cap, and their salary can't pass 157 million, so they don't really have room to like throw something in.
And if our plan is to replace Nurk with Nerlens Noel as our starting center instead of our backup center, I hate that even more.
But that would be kind of Cronin's MO. We're just get the, athletic defensive guy. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. You don't want to overreact and get too much of one thing where it becomes like redundant and watered down, and then you're missing too much of another. You got to have a balance. And I'm kind of worried that, we are maybe overcorrecting slightly just in terms of like just getting guards, maybe with questionable shots. Like we want Matisse Thybulle, and we want like Bruce Brown and Gary Payton II, and we love Justice Winslow. Apparently, that's the front office loves Justice Winslow, and Josh Hart even has a slightly questionable jump shot. The only problem I have with him, otherwise he's phenomenal. But it's like I don't want them to overcorrect. Also, Gary Payton II is a Dame Lillard guy. Like, Damian Lillard has a good relationship with him. I also wonder how much of this is like...
Oakland guy, too, I think.
Yeah, Oakland guy, too. His dad was an Oakland guy. I just wonder how much of this is Dame just getting his guy. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out, man. That's just, least I can say, I guess.
Yeah, so in terms of Jeremy Grant... the Blazers can't add anything in terms of salary to the TPE, so that's kind of shot. Now they pretty much can't use their other trade exception, the Rocco one. But yeah, here's my problem. Even if you really, really wanted a defender at the level of Gary Payton as a guard, I think those kind of players... you don't lock up into 3-year deals or big contracts because those kind of players can be found, in my opinion. Like, people are going to think this is crazy, but Dennis Smith Jr. last year for a minimum, right? He was pretty good defense, can't shoot, set up the offense well, but didn't really do much else, right? But is signing him to a 1-year contract versus Gary Payton II, who's a much better player, but can't really run the offense as a true point guard, and can't really. And now we're locked into him for 3 years on a contract that if he's not playing or if he doesn't end up playing well for us looks bad. Then it's just it's just kind of questionable to do that kind of stuff. And that's why I said I would rather have given up a couple of seconds for Thibault, because then if he doesn't work out, you can get rid of him after a year. If he does work out, you can re-sign him, or you have avenues to do that. It's just, yeah, I don't. I really like Hart. I thought he was the perfect third guard, and so I don't even know what we could. Actually, I'll wait to answer this because I think this kind of lines up with the next question, or yeah, the next two donations. Actually, probably read them both off. Or actually, there's one donation before those two.
Yeah, we're at Liam Best, $2 Australian donor says box and one all season. Nas, Hart, and GP2 point of attack rotation. I mean, maybe they have some like innovative new defensive system that nobody's ever seen before, and they just need a bunch of small, quick players, and it's better than having taller, slower players. I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this is no shade on Gary Payton II, though.
No.
It's no shade on Gary Payton. It's fit. It's okay. We already have a bunch of guards. We need a forward. Like, it's no shade on Gary Payton at all. So don't act like it is. I just don't want people to get this misconstrued. You already have your guard rotation set. If you have Dame, you have Ant, you have Hart, Shaden Sharp, who you just took 7th overall, can play the 2 and the 3. Then you have Nas to play the 3. Like, you're just set at those positions already. So it's like, why are we going out and spending our best free agent asset on another guard? How does that all work? How does that all fit? That is what we're discussing here is the fit, not necessarily whether or not Gary Payton II would work well with Chauncey. I'm sure he would. I'm not saying Gary. Did I say Gary Trent? I'm gonna have to make sure not to do that. I'm not saying Gary Payton can't work well with Chauncey. I'm not saying he's not a phenomenal defensive player. I'm not saying that at all. It's just all about fit and having too many guards. So, thank you, Henry Smart Denson, $2 dono says any potential Hart trades you guys can think of. Let's talk about that in a second after I read off these other couple donos, because I don't really know off the top of my head too many. Shout Louis, $2 dono. If we did trade Hart, who would be worth it? That can also contribute to the conversation. Thank you, Henry and Louis, for the $2 donos. And then shout out Power Hitter 427 with the $5 dono says, what's the best case scenario for you both at this moment in time? Sorry you guys are getting hate. Keep on grinding. Appreciate it, Power Hitter. Thank you for your $5 dono. Hart trades. What potential Hart trades could be out there that could make this signing make a little bit more sense positionally?
Well, unfortunately now my dream target is going to be very hard to get. That's Mikal Bridges, even if there is a fallout and he gets moved elsewhere. We don't really have a way to either match the salary without going over the hard cap or like bringing him in. So yeah, I think that dream is dead, unfortunately. I mean, I guess OG, but he's 17 something this year, 18 almost. So it's hard because you'd be trading out 2 players most likely for 1, and we can't use Bledsoe's contract anymore. So we'd have to sign another roster spot if we did that. So I think that pretty much rules out a Hart for basically anyone making more than $1 million or $2 million more than Hart. So I guess the Payton things are still possible, even though those would be difficult to pull off considering we could only give up. We're still going to be up against the hard cap, and they still can only take back a certain amount that we can give out. So, man, I think maybe we're just going to re-sign Nurk, and that's going to be good. Like, I don't know. But it kind of seems like that's maybe the plan, is just to have the ultimate guard depth at defense or something. I don't know.
Maybe the plan is to go get Ben Simmons to be our starting center now with Nurkic and Hart, and I don't know. I mean, that wouldn't even surprise me at this point. You know? I mean... Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chat, give me your best idealistic Hart trades. Shout out Caleb Pendergraph, $5 dono, says, I know the trolls can be a pain. Keep up the great work. I'm also confused by this. Thank you, Caleb. Appreciate your support, man. I appreciate the $5 dono. Yeah, I did not want to go live again tonight. I was I was ready to just kind of do something tomorrow and relax because we were live for 8 hours earlier today. But yeah, so probably won't be a super long stream. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. We'll still stream at some point tomorrow as well. Anyway, Gabe says, why can't we use Bledsoe? Here's the thing is our salary can't go over $157 million now. So, like, if we're trading Bledsoe for OG, you're just adding OG's salary to Dame's 42 mil, to Grant's 21 mil, to Simons's, like, 22.5 mil, to potentially Nurkic at, like, 17 mil, to Gary Payton at 9 mil, Hart at 13 mil. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, too, but, like, that adds up quite a bit. So that's the problem is we're hard capped. Our salary can't go over 157 million.
Yep. I'm trying to find something. You can keep talking. I was trying to find something.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was gonna say. But I mean, I don't know. I'm down to embrace the small ball again, I guess. I guess that's the mindset to be in, right, Eric? I don't even know. I just bought into we need more size.
Guys, this signing means we cannot trade for Ben Simmons. We can't do it. So I don't know.
We can't trade for him at all?
Well, I mean, I guess we could do a sign and trade, but they're up against the hard tax too. So if they do a sign and trade for Nurk, so
yeah, it'd have to be Nurkic to a third team.
How are we matching salary?
It'd have to be Nurkic to a third team, so that it doesn't hard cap them.
Yeah, so
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is any follow up would have conditions that are just really weird.
This rules us out of KD pretty much too, because we would have to trade 6 players unless Nurk signed for 8 million too, and then we just signed a bunch of minimums and stuff. It's going to be really hard to stay under that hard cap line. So it pretty much rules us out of any big player, considering now we can't use Bledsoe's contract to do that.
DJ Vega and Definitive, stop arguing and barking at each other, please. You guys are both pretty big members of this community. Just relax on each other. Yeah, it's I don't know what the follow-up would be, man. I'm just reading chat right now. How about
same thing? Can't really get LeBron either.
Gordon Hayward is 30 mil, so how are we staying under 157 is where we're at. And not to mention we still need 2 centers, right? I mean, Nurkic hopefully is one of them, but what about the backup? Who's the backup for? Is Nas the backup for?
All right. Let me try to explain this again. With signing Gary Payton for more than $6.5 million, it means the Blazers have initiated a hard cap on their salary this season. So under no circumstances, no matter what happens this season, the Blazers cannot go over $156,938,000 in salary. So, in order to use Bledsoe in a trade, considering we just signed Anthony Simons, and for those, a side note, we cannot trade Anthony Simons now. He is untradeable. He's ineligible to be traded. So anything involving Anthony Simons that you guys have questions about, just the answer is no. We can't do it. So now we have a situation where we cannot go over that. So, and that is including, we have the 20 million gap if we waive Bledsoe. If we keep Bledsoe, that takes away that whole gap that we have to play with between the salary we're at right now and the salary we have if we waive Bledsoe below that hard cap line. So if Shaggy Man, you keep listening. I heard Tori explain the MLE thing for you, and you were still saying Tori was wrong earlier. Um, so if you have a case where you traded Bledsoe, let's say we traded Bledsoe for, let's just say we traded him and Hart for Ben Simmons, right? So that 20 million we have right now to play with, after cutting him, you take out, that's already been accounted for, the 16 million difference in his salary of what we're paying for. And then I'm just using it as an example. And then you take out Josh Hart's and then add in the Ben Simmons contract, and all of a sudden you're adding 20 million or Bledsoe's contract back into that. So then all of a sudden, instead of that gap there, the gap's gone. We only have 12 players on our roster. We still have to sign 2 more, but there's no money to sign 2 minimums. So the trade would be void because you do not have enough room to sign 2 minimums after that. So that's why we're kind of stuck to where we can't do that. And Benjamin Lucas keeps asking about. He just kept saying, "No, it's wrong. You can't do a KD. KD makes more than Ben Simmons, like 10 million more, I think, or 9 million more. So how are we going to match a contract without using Bledsoe when we have no other big contracts besides Bledsoe right now? How are we going to go and match a contract for Kevin Durant? Even if we traded like 8 players out, we'd still be up against that hard cap line, and we would have no room to fill out the rest of the roster. So this pretty much hamstrings us from making a huge move unless it's a player making a lot less than Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant are making. So I know it's kind of confusing, but it's not a situation where Jody can say screw the cap and pay as much as you want. The minute we sign Gary Payton to more than $6.5 million, we made this hard cap line. The NBA has a soft cap that you can go over as much as you want to unless you initiate a hard cap. And we just did that with the Gary Payton signing for a guard. And this is why Tori and I are not all sugar and plums and butterflies and stuff about the signing, right? Because the implications of signing a guard, this basically means it's off the table to get a really big splash move in a trade, at least from now until December or January when some of our contracts are able to be signed. So for all of this, it just all comes together to be saying we can't, this move, signing Gary Payton, not only is it an undersized guard, but it severely hampers any chance we had, any sliver of hope any of you had of getting KD or Ben Simmons or a huge contract like that outside of maybe DeAndre Ayton.
Yep.
But so that's basically the only thing we can do, right? And so now it becomes, remember how we were talking earlier about how we could absorb campaign into the tax or the trade exception? And because for DeAndre Ayton to work, we have to make a trade to where if, let's say we signed DeAndre Ayton to 30 million, he would only count as 15 million going out as matching purposes for the Suns, and he would count as 30 million for us, what we have to match outgoing. So to do that before, Tori had the idea earlier today where you could add campaign to it into the trade exception, and we could maybe work out a way to where Ayton's contract was just big enough to, maybe not a max, but just big enough to match Ayton's half of his contract and campaign going out for them, and then we'd send out more salary going back. But now that we got hard capped, it's going to be very difficult to pull that off using our trade exception, because what we're paying Ayton, we're sending out these contracts and it doesn't make sense. So this is just saying, we're all these big names that you guys think we were going to get this summer, we pretty much just ended any chance of getting them. It still is possible maybe with Peyton if certain things, like I think you could maybe line up the contracts perfectly. Maybe there's a solution there, but it's going to be very, very, very difficult.
Yep. For anybody just joining us who's wondering what being hard capped means, it means our total salary cannot go past approximately $157 million over the next year. Okay? Any move that puts our salary past that, the NBA will not allow. So you can't choose to go over it. It's not a matter of choosing whether to spend or not. Your salary, the NBA won't let you go over that salary number now. So that's when you use the full mid-level exception instead of the taxpayer. That's what happens. So, yeah, it's just basically a situation where you don't have enough room beneath that to make certain things happen that maybe you might have wanted to, and it's all for a guy at a position that we were already kind of set at. That's why I'm not a big fan of this trade, and you have people that think it's because I don't think Gary Payton is a great defender, or people are taking it as Gary Payton hate. There's so much more that goes into team building than just like, oh, good player, I like, put him on my team. You know, there's a lot more, and it's a lot more nuanced than that. It's a lot more complicated than that. And even if you get a good player on an MLE, you can restrict your potential to do something else. And, you know, you want to have certain types of players at certain positions, and would have rather had a forward. So that's basically where I'm at right now. And that's it. Yeah. We'll see.
Gotta get caught back out in the donuts.
Yep. Shout out to... Aren't we caught up?
Well, I didn't read Shaggy Squid. I just was responding to it, but I didn't actually read it.
Oh, yeah. You said if we don't pay Nurk $17 million, then we have $17 million. Thank you, Shaggy Squid. Yeah, like, that's the thing is Bledsoe, with his contract guaranteed, like, I think puts us, I don't know, kind of close to the hard cap. Let me just do the math right now, actually. What was Peyton's starting salary, you said?
I mean, I'm not sure, but so...
Just approximate.
I think on the low end, I just estimated 8.5.
Okay.
Times 1.5... Not 1.51, it's 1.05.
Yeah, so without counting Bledsoe, which Bledsoe's contract, for anybody who doesn't know, if we leave him on the roster past July 10th, he counts as $19.4 million of salary. Right now, that's basically practically like impossible at this point. So if we waive him, he counts as $3.9 million of dead money. We can stretch that over 3 years and make it so that he only counts as $1.3 million of dead money. So let's throw in his $1.3 million of dead money, because I think it's most likely that we waive and stretch him. So if that's the case, with everybody the Blazers currently have on contract right now, the Blazers have $23.6 million under the hard cap. So I don't even know how they get Peyton at this point, because if you signed and traded, you'd include Josh Hart. That would be the salary. But like, you couldn't do Bledsoe plus Nurkic in a sign and trade for Peyton, because I'm not even counting, like, none of Bledsoe's salary except for $1.3 million is counting towards this, and Nurkic's salary isn't counting towards this, and they only have $23 million of space below the hard cap. So if you add Peyton at $30 million,
signed Peyton for $20 million, I guess.
Yeah, you'd have to sign Peyton for like $20 million, basically. Yeah.
So PDX LFC says, I mean, order of operations probably does change things a bit. Nope, it doesn't. The order of operations means nothing, because if we sign Gary Payton, no matter if we'd made a bunch of moves before that, then we cannot go under it. I mean, I can't make this any clearer. Signing him means we cannot go under, no matter how we rearrange it, no matter what kind of trades we make, no matter what signings we make. We cannot, under any circumstances, go under that 150, go over that 156 point whatever number, 156,938. So basically 157 million. There is no circumstances. It does not matter at all an order of the trades or signings or who we do first and waiting on certain people. That's all out the window. None of that matters. We are hard capped at 157 million, and there's not a thing they can do to change that for an entire calendar year, including up through the draft next year and right up until free agency. We still cannot go over that number until the new league starts in 2023.
Yep. So I can show you guys the spreadsheet that I have. If you guys want to see like the numbers for yourself, maybe it might make it easier to kind of understand the situation.
I was going to link page 2.
Yeah, I'll just share my window here.
I think the 8.5 is a little low for what Peyton's first year is going to have to be.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it should be like 8.7 mil, I think.
Yeah. I mean, not that matters too much for this.
Yeah, I'll just change it to 8.7 mil. All right, so let me set this up and share this with you guys, and I'll show you this spreadsheet. Just give me a second to do it. Yeah, we'll do that.
Andrew Olengui with the $5 donation. Thank you for the donation. Unfortunately, if you said something that YouTube didn't like, it cut off your message. So just tag Blazers Uprise in chat, and we'll read off what your message was supposed to be. Or if you didn't leave a message, thanks for the donation.
Yep, appreciate you. Can you guys see these numbers, yes or no? Are these numbers legible, or do I need them? I'll just make it bigger. I'll just make it bigger. Just trying to fit it in here. I could make it full screen, but I can work with this. Okay, is that better? Okay, so this is our cap sheet, okay? This is the hard cap. I'll put this in red. This is what our salaries are. I'll put this in blue, okay? And this is our room. I will put that in green, okay? So this is with Damian Lillard. I just put the first-year contract for Anthony Simons and Gary Payton II. Okay, so this is with Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, Josh Hart, Gary Payton II, Shaedon Sharpe, Nasir Little, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, Didi Lozada, Greg Brown III, and Trenton Watford. That's 12 players. You need 14 on the team. Who am I missing? You said we have 13 now? Oh, Bledsoe. Bledsoe I counted as dead money. So Bledsoe...
Is that in that calculation?
What's up?
I have a different number in the calculation.
I mean, this, if it's close, then it's fine. I
had 21, not 23.
What'd you say?
Yeah, both Bledsoe's and...
Yeah, 1.3 million of dead money for Bledsoe, not 3.9.
Oh, you stretch Bledsoe.
Yeah,
okay.
Stretch. Okay. So it's maximum. So this is with all those contracts that I listed, okay? It's with Andrew Nicholson's $2.8 million of dead money, which we can't get rid of or do anything rid of. And then the most we could realistically end up saving in regards to Bledsoe would be to waive and stretch him, and then he'd be $1.3 million of dead money. That's like the lowest hit we could possibly take for Eric Bledsoe outside of trading him, but if we trade him, then we're taking salary back anyway. So with those contracts, with Nicholson, with Bledsoe, we have $23 million of room. So if you add, like, Kevin Durant for, let's say we do Josh Hart and Yusuf Nurkic in a sign and trade and include, like, Nas and Justice Winslow and all these guys, all right? Yusuf Nurkic's salary doesn't count towards this already. So let's just take out Josh Hart. Let's take out Nasir Little. Let's take out Justice Winslow. Let's take out Keon Johnson, Lozada. You have $49 million of room, but if you add Kevin Durant to this, you'd have only 8 contracts with $5 million left to spend.
And the minimum contract for free agent signings is $2 million.
Yep, you'd have to add 6 more players, and the minimum contracts are too much, So you wouldn't have room under the hard cap because you have to have at least 14 players. You'd only have 8 after that. So even with signing and trading Nurkic and including Hart, including Nasir Little, including Justice Winslow, including Keon Johnson, including DJ Lazada, you still do not have room under the hard cap for Kevin Durant. Okay, now Kevin Durant's making $44 million, so that's quite a bit. But you're going to have similar issues in any situation. Say you want to re-sign Nurkic and use Bledsoe's non-guaranteed contract and Hart's contract to trade for Ben Simmons, okay? So let's take Bledsoe and Hart out of there. Ben Simmons is about $33 million. Oh, whoops, that was one extra zero. You'd have $4 million to resign Yusuf Nurkic under the hard cap if you traded Josh Hart and Eric Bledsoe for Ben Simmons in some sort of package. You would not have enough salary space to re-sign Nurkic.
Also, you would need to sign 2 more people still.
Yep, and you'd still need to sign 2 more people. So, yeah, maybe you can include Nas and Justice Winslow, but you'd still have to fill their roster spots, and they're only making $4 million apiece. And so, I mean, you'd have $12 million to sign Nurkic in this sort of scenario, but the problem is you'd only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You'd only have 11 players. So you'd have to make room for 3 minimum signings, which is almost $2 million a year. So you would have like $6 million. And that's if you traded Hart, Bledsoe, Winslow, and Nas for Ben Simmons. You still would not be able to keep Nurkic. That's the problem with this sort of signing. All the flexibility that the Portland Trailblazers touted, or at least, the reports touted how the Blazers had all this flexibility in the offseason. I mean, we traded for Jeremy Grant. Cool. Solid trade. But then signing Gary Payton here,
flexibility led to another 6'2" guard.
Yep, the flexibility led to another 6'2" guard, and now we have none left. So, and that was the problem last year, was we had too many 6'2", 6'3" guards. So, hopefully our frustration makes a little bit more sense to those of you who didn't understand it.
So someone, or Tommy Gomez says, so this one guard signing at roughly $9 million has F them for years to come. It's just for one year, but 1 year. But this was supposed to be the year we made all the changes. The whole point was to have the flexibility this one summer to do that. So I don't think with Anthony Simons now, with Grant seemingly, I mean, I don't know why we trade for him if we're not going to re-sign him or sign him to an extension, whether that's 2 or 4 years. I don't know. Like, obviously now Gary Payton's on the books for next year at the very least. It basically took away all this flexibility that Cronin had been preaching for months.
Yep. Now, I mean, the only problem that the Gary Payton signing is an issue is because obviously it puts in this hard cap. Mm-hmm. If this hard cap wasn't here, our salary could be like...
Yeah, it could be like...
a billion, cajillion, whatever the hell number you want to invent. It could be that much and we'd be fine.
You can't add salary. You can't just go sign free agents to that, but...
Yeah, you need cap space, but in trades, we could, do some of these trades that I said you can't do. You could do it just as long as the salary matched. You could go above $157 million if you signed Gary Payton to, a couple million less for the taxpayer MLE, or if you just didn't sign him at all. So, it creates issues because we signed him to the full mid-level exception. This hard cap's in place now.
And here's the deal. If we would have signed Gary Payton or any other free agent to that 3-year, $21 million tax mid-level exception, then once again, we could have used Bledsoe's full contract. We could have used Hart, all those things. We could have gone after KD still. But the fact that we signed him to $2 million more than that per season starting out changed everything. So 3 years, $21 million, which I think would have been still a good deal for Gary Payton. I mean, I don't know if we sign him, but you could probably get a defensive specialist to add to that. So the difference between $21 million. So if we would have signed Gary Payton for 3 years, $21 million, I mean, I still don't think that makes sense. But everything we've been saying about the flexibility and all that kind of stuff, we'd at least be telling you guys, at least they didn't hard cap themselves. and we can still have the hope that we're doing another big move. We could still maybe sign and trade Nurk somewhere. We could still, use Bledsoe's contract in trades. So all of this stuff would still be available to us. But the fact that we signed him to 3 years, $28 million, basically just ruins all that. So my whole thing all along, and once again, people are going to not listen. I don't give a crap about my feelings on Gary Payton. I like Gary Payton. He's a Beaver just like me. Love his dad. He's also a Beaver. Those guys are totally respectable. Gary Payton, I love his work ethic. I love that he was willing to be a video coordinator for the Warriors if he didn't get signed, and then work his way back onto the team, maybe if through hard work. Last year. I love that story.
Great dude. From
awesome
all accounts,
guy.
Yeah.
Total good player, good role player on a good team. Obviously, he proved that he could be a key rotation player for a championship team this year. But if the Blazers were going to hard cap themselves and lose the flexibility of Bledsoe's contract, who we heard, it's going to be such an asset, right? If we're going to lose that flexibility, I just do not believe that targeting a 6'2", 6'3"-ish guard was the right strategy for all this other stuff to be taken off the table because of. So it doesn't matter. I could think Gary Payton is the best backup guard in the entire league. I still don't think it makes sense for us to handicap our cap this much to where we either don't have anything else we can really do other than trade Hart for someone making the same or less money and maybe some other secondary trades. And that's pretty much it. Maybe a couple minimum signings and re-sign Nurkic, or make like one splash if the numbers come out perfectly and maybe you get lucky with an Ayton, but you're still looking at trading Nurkic and Hart for Ayton and Gary Payton basically. And I just don't think those type of trades are worth getting hard cap for, eliminating any possibility of improving the roster in any other position that we definitely needed to improve the roster on, mainly still not having a for sure starting small forward and for sure backup power forward and a for sure starting or backup center. So I just felt like there were too many holes, no matter how good of a player Gary Payton is, to make this big of a splash on day one of free agency to where it limits any other moves we have the rest of the summer.
Yep, absolutely. Now, I mean, right now, we still can resign Yusuf Nurkic. We still have $23 million under. It's just when it comes to talking about trades, like, that's the thing. If Nurkic makes $15 million, all of a sudden you only have $8 million of room. That's not counting Bledsoe's contract. So you couldn't just trade Bledsoe for somebody making $12 million. You couldn't just trade Bledsoe for OG Anunoby or anything like that, because this isn't counting Bledsoe's contract. If you just toss, Bledsoe for OG Anunoby onto here, OG Anunoby's making like what, 17 million? Let's just put it down here. Okay, 17 million. That's without Nurkic on contract. If you just traded Bledsoe for OG Anunoby, let's say you trade future picks or whatever, I don't know, you'd have $6 million left for Yusuf Nurkic to sign him.
Who's our center?
And
if we don't re-sign Nurkic,
we don't even have a
backup
center. So, like, OG Anunoby's just a hypothetical. I don't think he's getting traded or anything, but he's just a hypothetical. That's the thing, is like any trade, you have to include Hart in if you want to re-sign Nurkic. So it's like we sign a guard when we already have our perfect third guard, and now if we want to like make these trades, now we have to include our perfect third guard so that we can retain our center.
Yeah. So
like that's why we have an issue with this.
People are asking, could we just include Hart? Maybe we include Hart and Bledsoe's partial guarantee to get Jeremy Grant instead of the TPE, so we're sending salary out. So basically we're trading Hart and picks for Grant and GP, why wouldn't we just keep Hart? I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'd rather have just kept Hart because I think he's good.
Yep. So, I mean, the reason why Ayton works is obviously, like, we wouldn't keep Nurkic, and then, like, you'd throw Hart into that deal. That's why I thought this was the plan. So, you'd throw, like, a sign and trade of Nurkic. The thing is, Nurkic would probably have to go somewhere else, to a third team, but, like, Nurkic and Hart as outgoing salary, we'd have room to take back Ayton. We'd have $36 million of room under the hard cap. So Ayton's max is like 31. So you'd be able to bring back Ayton, which is why I feel like Nurkic and Hart for Ayton is what the potential follow-up move could be.
Yeah, it's just really tricky to make the math work on that. And then we still need to sign a couple players. People are asking again what the hard cap is. So the hard cap is a number that's okay. So there's the salary cap line, which is 123.6 something. That's just the normal salary cap line. Then there's the luxury tax line of, I think it went up to 150 some million.
Yeah, about 150 sounds right. Approximately.
So that's the line. If you're over that line, you have to pay what's called the luxury tax. And so if you're over that line, you have to pay extra than just your salary for having too much salary on your books. And then there's what's called the tax apron, which is roughly 6 million above the luxury tax line. So you have a little bit of room to play with going into the tax, but below the apron. And that number is triggered by if you do a sign and trade for another player, if you use the full mid-level exception.
Right now. Let me just say, the tax apron is the hard cap that gets put into place when you sign and trade for somebody, use the full mid-level exception and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. So the hard cap of 157 million just means that it's like a little bit less than the 159, or 156.9, but Tori just rounded up. I just want to confuse anyone. But that means, so by using the full mid-level exception, which we did because Gary Payton makes more than the tax mid-level exception, so it doesn't matter if you use the full 10.5 million, as long as you use $1 over the tax mid-level exception, it is considered using the full mid-level exception. And now we are hard capped at that 157 million and cannot go over it for a full calendar year until the new league year starts in 2023. And PDX LFC asked, what if GP2's contract is backloaded? Would that make a difference? It would not make a difference because the maximum raise we can give him in this situation is 5%. And so he's obviously going to be making as low as possible, like we estimated that 8.7, maybe it's as low as 8.66 million this year. But that is the minimum we could pay him for a $28 million contract in year one. So at the very least, it's at least 8.6666 million that we owe him this year, which triggers the hard cap and brings upon all the things we've been talking about for the last however long we've been talking about it.
Yep. So, whoops, wrong. Too many zeros. Yeah, so this is roughly 20. No, he signed for 28 million.
Yeah, 28.
So it'd be like the minimum we could have signed him to for year one is about 8.9 million. Because this is with the max amount of raises. So this is as backloaded as we can make it.
I hope GP2 pulls a DeAndre Jordan. I mean, they obviously
you guys
would
even see this here.
Yeah, it's
there. You
go. So Christopher Trong says, "Why would Corona do this?" I feel like he said something about us not. It's not a mistake. It's just something isn't adding up. I don't know. KD is very, very, very much out of play. I mean, short of some sort of... I guess we could trade Dame for KD.
Oh, God, don't even say that. Don't even put that out there into the world. I'm trying to get his exact salary right now, which is kind of pointless, but...
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So about just a bunch of 8s is probably what his first year 1 salary is going to be. We'll see when he's, like, put on the payroll, and, like, you guys can check websites after this, but, yeah, about 8.8 million.
Yeah. Can't get TJ Warren anymore.
We could use the biannual.
Yeah, I guess we could. I guess
because we're already hard capped. So
I find it hard to believe no team would offer him more than like $4 million or whatever we end up having between Nurk and I guess it'd be more like $6 million.
Yep. So we could like re-sign Nurkic hypothetically to like a $15 million a year contract. You know, like let's say we pay him $15 million year 1, we'd have $8 million left. But the biannual exception is how much, Eric? Do you know off the top of your head?
Roughly 4.2 or something like that. I'll try to find it.
No, that's fine. That's close enough. And then we could like sign Jabari Walker, which would be like it'd be like about $1 million for a second round rookie. So yeah, we could sign Nurkic for like 15 mil. Use the biannual exception. I can't spell. So we could still use the biannual exception. Dude, I just made the same spelling mistake. What am I doing? It's late. So yeah, we'd probably have room to re-sign Nurkic and then use the biannual exception. The fact that they haven't re-signed Nurkic yet, and the fact that they made this signing just suggests to me that they are going after DeAndre Ayton. The problem is the salaries with that are weird, and like where's Nurkic gonna go? And like is KD to Phoenix a part of that? And if he is, why the hell are we hoping Phoenix get Kevin Durant? Or maybe they were gonna get him anyway, and we just really want Ayton. Like it's just very questionable situation right now. I mean, this is why me and Eric study this stuff because like just it's fascinating to think about how they maneuver this roster. Maybe they just resign Nurkic and call it an offseason. But, I mean, we need a backup center. We need a backup power forward. That backup power forward, unfortunately, might have to be Nasir Little, who is more of a 3.
I mean, I know you don't like it, but the team believes in Justice Winslow. He's probably going to be our backup 4. But then I don't know how Nas gets minutes. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because you got Gary Payton as a backup guard. You got Josh Hart at the 3. You got Sharp at the 2-3 guard. What were you saying? What'd you go about?
I was just thinking of like our seeing a bench lineup of like Gary Payton, Justice Winslow, Nasir Little, and Trendon Watford, like no shooting.
Yeah, that's where I'm worried. Where like Kernan might be overcorrecting and not valuing shooting enough because he's just like, we just got to get defenders no matter what, no matter how tall they are, no matter anything else. We're just going to get 1 million defenders. Like, yeah, we need to get better defensively, but you got to have a balance. You can't just overcorrect for one thing because then like 2 years from now, we'll be sitting here begging for a shooter. Like Ben McLemore, we'll even take him. Like, I don't want to end up in that spot 2 years from now. Because that's the thing. As fan bases, when you don't have enough of something, that's when you really want it. You know, we've been really wanting defense. Guess what? If we had good enough defenders, but not enough shooting, we'd really want shooting right now. And that's kind of how fans were after 2019 when we had Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless, and those guys weren't good enough shooters. We needed better shooters. So you got to find a balance.
Max, I'm sorry, but the Lakers' odds on getting KD are pretty low.
Yep. Let me thank some donos. Shout out to Dro, $2 dono says, Cronin has no clue or we are making a big trade. Yeah, I have no idea, man. We will see. We shall see. Shout out Greg Hughes Investigates, $10 dono says, wow, you guys are mad. Or you... madness. I'm going mad. He says, wow, you guys are machines. So how much is available to sign Nurkic right now? Yeah, I'd say roughly like 17, 18 mil. Max. That just makes it very, very close. Anyway, thank you, Gray, for the $10 dono, man. I appreciate your support as always. Yeah. So, hopefully some of you maybe learn something today. I mean, that's kind of the goal.
I think some people just refuse to believe that we are correct, so which is fine.
I mean, you guys think I'd be going through this fluently and this well if I didn't know what I was talking about? I mean, okay, that's fine. Like, Trust me. I mean, we do our research. We know our CBA. We've studied this stuff, so we can try and hopefully explain it to you guys. But you know. Anyway.
Was there any other news tonight? That was like the only thing that happened.
You know what's funny? It's like this entire stream we've talked about how many guards we have and guards. Have we even said Keon Johnson yet?
No. Well, I mean, Didi's basically a shooting guard.
Oh yeah, we got Didi too, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought Keon Johnson was going to be our lockdown perimeter defender.
I thought, Keon Johnson was supposed to be our Gary Payton II, but now our Gary Payton II is supposed to be our Gary Payton II. But he's also supposed to be our Josh Hart, and maybe we're going to get rid of Josh Hart so we can have not as good Josh Hart because we want a bunch of Josh Harts. I don't know, man. Shout out Gray Hughes of SK's $5 donut says, you guys are incredible at the CBA knowledge. Is anyone better? Also, what do you think about capping the number 3s in a game that count as 3? Thank you, Gray, for the $5 dono. As far as the second part, man, that's just gimmicky to me, and I don't know. I wouldn't agree with it. I know some people, including like my stepfather, is like just hates on the NBA because too many threes, too many blowouts because of threes. So, yeah, I get it. But, I mean, three-pointer is part of the game. You got to learn how to defend the three-point ball if you want to win. There's ways to defend it. You got to close out well. You got to be smart. Got to rotate quickly. So, I just think teams need to do a better job defending it. But as far as the first part, I mean, we try our best to know everything regarding the CBA. And if not, we study it. Like, we generally put in the time to try and learn this stuff so we can explain it to you guys as best we can and as fluently as we can. Because it's a hard thing to explain. Takes a lot of time, takes a lot of practice to learn how to explain it in a way that hopefully makes sense for the viewer. So, appreciate the support, man.
Daniel Lee asks, is there anyone we can target with the remaining trade exceptions? Well, I saw this question. I forgot. I'm sorry who kept asking it, but someone was asking, can we still get Matisse Thybulle? Why would we, after everything we talked about, even if it was possible to get Matisse Thybulle, why would we want yet another player that's the size of Gary Payton and Josh Hart and those guys to add to this problem we've already talked about? So, no, Canelo Alvarez is not a good fit for the Lakers. He's a boxer, so please stop spamming chat.
It's that time of night. Anyway, shout out Jam1231 with a $2 dono, who says, at this rate, Jabari Walker will be playing 35 minutes. Hey, that's the positive, Eric. Jabari Walker is going to be our backup four, man.
No, he's not. We're going to have all these minutes for everyone else. We're going to have Josh Hart as our backup four at this rate, and Gary Payton's our starting small forward, and yeah.
Matisse Thybulle is our guard off the bench. Let's go. Gabe Bauer says Cam Reddish. I mean, Cam Reddish is another perimeter player. I mean, that's not. We just don't need more perimeter players. We need a backup four and a backup five, and we need to retain our starting five.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I think. I mean, if there's not a trade, then they've accepted that Josh Hart's their starting three, Eric. Which I guess with Jeremy Grant, off-ball defender, and Josh Hart trying to be the on-ball guy, I guess that's.
So, let me ask you this then. We heard Cronin specifically say that he thinks Hart can play the three, but their whole plans are designed around hoping he doesn't have to, right?
Yep.
Then they go out and they specifically target all these smaller guards just so they have to play Josh Hart at the three then, right?
Yeah. That's what makes no sense to me, because it's either that or they trade Josh Hart after they said that they wish they could have a team full of Josh Harts. So that's part of my frustration too, is like the words of Joe Cronin aren't matching his actions.
Alvy, there's no point in even talking that. Either we're going to find a way to make the math work and get Ayton and give up way too much for him, and we're going to probably help Phoenix get Kevin Durant in that situation, or we're just going to re-sign Nurkic and call it a day and go with a super small lineup and hope that works.
Yep.
And the other thing is, too, I mean, as much as I like Nurkic, there are legitimate concerns about him playing a full season, and I'm fine with him as our starting center if you have a competent backup. But we're not addressing that, and now we're going to be stuck in a situation where if he goes down for 20 games or something, what the heck are we going to be doing?
Yeah.
We're going to play Trendon Watford at the 5 again? So he's going to be another undersized player with our undersized at every other position except for Grant, maybe?
That'll be fun.
And we can't play Grant at the center because he doesn't know how to rebound.
Yeah, I mean, Grant's
we'd be the worst
rebounder.
rebounding team in the league if he plays 5.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Grant is a terrible rebounder for a forward in general. Like, if he was playing the 3, he'd still be a bad defender. That dude does not rebound. He also doesn't get through screens well. I mean, people are going to realize that, though. I don't need to say it.
We were sold, like, I mean, for those of you who are new to this channel, Tori and I hated the trade deadline. We have been bashing it for months, but the pushback we always got was, have some patience. Wait to see what Cronin does with all this cap space. Wait to see what he does with this flexibility. You have to let his plan come through to fruition before you judge it because he knows what he's doing and you're not a GM. Well, this is exactly why I didn't trust him, is because we kept getting that kind of stuff and we didn't have the assets from those trades to pull off what he wanted to pull off. We got very, very lucky for the Grant trade to be as little as we gave up as we did. And now we're going to basically, that's going to be our biggest move. And if you told anyone at the trade deadline that with all that flexibility and cap space and all that, we'd basically get Gary Payton II and Jeremy Grant would be our, like, every single person would say, that's not good enough. Like, why would we get all this flexibility just to get that? So now I don't want to hear those same people saying, oh, good value signing, great move, wow, this plan is really coming together. No, it's not. You guys all dreamed about Zach LaVine and Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons and all these guys, and we ended up with Jeremy Grant, who was coming here anyway because he and Dame were teaming up and wanted to team up, and he was going to force his way here, and Gary Payton II. So I don't want to hear anything that his plan's working out or whatever. He's so far not done a very good job of utilizing that flexibility and cap space he created, and that was the only way he could have saved what he did at the trade deadline, even if that wasn't his fault. If he could have been a good GM from here on out, we would have been fine. And I just don't understand why we would go this route for this. So I'm just a little frustrated.
Yep, and then they give us crap in chat for not liking the siding. So that's why we were on edge to start this stream and just kind of like responding to that stuff. Yeah, you summed that up really, really well, man. But then they insult us, and we have a problem with that, and then we're the assholes. And yeah,
yeah. Well,
that's just how it goes. But a lot of support too, and people saying just don't worry about it, which I appreciate. So we're casuals because we thought the 3-guard lineup would work, and then it didn't work, and now everyone's like, you guys are fine with a 3-guard lineup. Why don't you want it to work? Well, we had a 3-guard lineup before signing Gary Payton. Now we have like a 4-guard lineup. Yeah, so we should have hated the 3-guard lineup back then and then embraced the 4-guard lineup. It's the opposite, I guess. I don't know, man. It's just like the culmination of a bunch of arguments and narratives and opinions, like all into one in this sighting. Like, it's like this is everything just culminating here, and like, there you go, man. I mean, could you imagine if Olshey made this signing? Olshey drafts another guard out of high school and then signs another 6'2" guard. That's exactly what everybody would be saying right now. It'd be another layer to it. It would have been He drafted a 6'2 guard he drafted a 6'4 guard out of high school, once again, who's not ready to help Dame, and then he signed a 6'2 guard that he cut 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was his master plan, and he only got Grant because Grant wanted to come here, which is a fact. That's what people would be saying right now, but since it's Joe Cronin, a lot of people will give him a pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. I'm still excited for next season. It's going to be a fun team. Going to be some fun narratives to see it. At least we got some defensive players. There's still positives. I don't want it to be all negative. It's just frustrating with all the narratives and crap like that just playing out this way. So,
all right. So, before we read Liam's, I think Liam's is in the next one, right? And then clearly a bot. Let me just find this real quick. Where'd it go? I don't know who. I can't find it now. But whoever said, Tori and I were morons. I would. I purposely let. Okay, it was Vincent Bancheri. Or Bankari, maybe it's like Bankara, right? But he says, y'all are morons. I don't know if you're talking about chat or us, but I would just simply challenge you to let us know why, Vincent, if you're talking to us, you think we are being moronic or morons or stupid or however you want to describe it. Please discuss basketball and let us know why we are wrong on this, and I'll gladly have a conversation with you. So let's take it that route, and if you want to continue to name call and stuff, then you can get the heck out of our chat.
Yep.
You don't allow different opinions.
That's how it goes, man.
That's what he's gonna say.
Yeah. We're asking. We could beg people to say their different opinions and just say we really want to hear them, and we could beg for them. And
I'll be waiting, Vincent.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was talking about chat. We had that earlier. Yeah. I mean, maybe just don't call anybody a moron, and that way
don't use personal insults, and we're all good.
Yeah, very simple, very easy. Let's be. Apparently we adjusted our hats at the same moment, Eric. I guess that probably looked pretty cool. But let's just be nice, okay? And we can talk about this move. Anyway, I mean. Okay, it's obviously part of another move. I mean, we just literally explained the numbers, how it makes another move a lot harder and how another move doesn't really make sense. But we literally just broke down the numbers on this, Vincent. So you're calling us morons, I assume.
Well, see, that's what it always is. It's always wait and see. You guys don't know what he has planned yet. Oh, Eric, you're such a moron. You don't think Blazers have $60 million in cap space? Why would Woj tweet that if it wasn't true, dumbass? Right?
This is a therapy session for us, chat.
Yeah. I heard that from months from people like that. You don't know what you're talking about. Woj is plugged in and you don't. Cronin's a GM. If he knows what he's doing, he can create $60 million in cap space if he doesn't. I literally break down the numbers showing that it is physically impossible for him to get cap space, and I still have people responding, you'll see, Cronin has something up his sleeve, idiot. Like, no, he doesn't. I don't care what he has up his sleeve. It does not matter. Just like the hard cap line now does not matter what Cronin has up his sleeve. He has hard capped this team and made it very difficult to make moves on top of this. So if he still pulls off a move that makes sense, like, I mean, let's say he traded Josh Hart for Zion Williamson or something, right? Who makes a little less salary than him, and we're still under the hard cap, so it's fine. But he makes a major upgrade. I will then give him his props and say, with limited flexibility, he still pulled something off. But this guy, Cronin, from the day he took over the internship, preached how he was going to create flexibility and be able to work around the cap and maneuver the cap in a way to where he could make a ton of moves and be creative and all this stuff. And all that went out the window because he wanted another 6'3" guard. And I'm once again, I like Gary Payton II, fellow Beaver. For those who don't know, I went to Oregon State too. So go Beavers. Even though we're going to get screwed with USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12 and probably go down to a lower division or whatever. But go Beavers, whatever. I'm great with that. But we had an issue with having all our assets being guards, and everyone preached how we needed to get a more balanced roster, and all we did was go back to having the same problem of having way too many guards and not enough minutes for all of them to get minutes, including our new 7th pick who has superstar potential that might not even get on the floor now because we have no assets for playing time. So that's fine if you want to call me out and say we're a moron or whatever, but I will gladly say, you know what? Cronin pulled off a great trade. Like, the Grant trade was a good trade, right? We gave up minimal assets for Jeremy Grant. Hallelujah. Good job. But if he just re-signs Nurk and this is our team next year, I am not going to hear this, and I am not going to be pleasant to people who try to tell me I'm a moron and don't know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Our block list is going to double after tonight. It's already on its way, man. Yeah, if you insult us, you're just immediately getting hidden. I won't even read the whole thing. I'll just see the word like a moron or clown or donkey. I don't know. You guys can come off with some pretty creative insults. I'd actually appreciate a little bit more creativity with the insults. You know, get a little creative with it. Have some fun, right? But you're getting hidden if you insult us. This is just the way it goes. All right? Instantly hidden. You know, you can spend 15 seconds to write an insult, and I will spend 1 second clicking twice to hide you from this channel. So let's just, you know, don't insult us if we don't insult you, or else it's just kind of messed up. Anyway,
I appreciate Detroit Trent's statement. He says, how can you say they're idiotic for an opinion when they broke down the numbers right in front of your face? I don't know, man. We sat here all day explaining this, and yeah, I don't know. We're literally on stream for 8 hours earlier, 8+ hours, and now we're back on for I don't know how long the stream's been going, but yeah, we've been saying this all day. I don't know, it's just frustrating.
It's just
let's get caught up on donations.
As P to the 3 says, it's just time to embrace the guards again, Eric. Just guards. Let's run and gun, baby. Let's go.
All right, fine. Just don't say that you need to change the guard lineup, right? Yeah. Just say we didn't have the right mindset from our guards or something, right? Mm-hmm. But no, they literally said we needed to get bigger, more athletic, and balance the roster away from being guard heavy. And they didn't do that. So that's fine if you truly believe. If Cronin would have said, hey, you know what? I think the 3-guard lineup can work. It's just Norm didn't work, right? Mm-hmm. CJ didn't work. But Ant's going to be better than CJ. And now we have Gary Payton and Josh Hart, who I think will be better at the 3 than Norm was. But no, he specifically said, I don't really want to do that option unless we have to. And now he purposely signed someone to make that option possible. So I don't really once again, it's just like, you know, we talked about this with what if we trade for Kemba Walker, right? It would have nothing to do with Kemba Walker, right? It doesn't matter if you think Kemba Walker is the best player in the league or the worst player in the league. It's about the contracts and how those are managed and how you have your cap set up to make other moves. And
yeah,
same thing with Gary Payton. It has nothing to do with him as a player. He is a good player. He has a role in this league. He is a rotation player on a good team. 100% agree with that. I just don't know why we would need to add that type of player to a roster that has major holes still elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Kemba Walker thing, the idea was Bledsoe, and you take on Kemba Walker's contract, so you get Kelly Olynyk, right?
Or Noel now.
Yeah, or Noel. But with Olynyk, Detroit saves about $3 million, and maybe you give up a second. But you take on Kemba's contract so you can get your backup big man without giving much up to get him. And you'd still have, the taxpayer mid-level exception or something to go after, a backup for. Maybe that's a Derrick Jones Jr., who can also play really good on-ball defense, by the way, and is athletic and as well, kind of fits the MO, just has the length to play more of a forward position. And you have your backup big who can shoot, so if you're going after defenders that have questionable shots, well, you got Kelly Olynyk, who can be a backup stretch 5. right? Like, that would fit a lot better. So that was kind of the idea, but, is what it is. Anyway, let's think donos. Xavier Williams says, could a 3-team trade with the Lakers get us Durant? Thank you, Xavier, for the $5 dono. The problem is that the Blazers' salary can't go past $157 million, and I just don't see any way you can bring in Durant and keep the salary below $157 million. We are now hard capped, which means our salary can't go past $157 million because of this Gary Payton signing. Clearly about 5. Go ahead.
Did you get Liam's and Clearly Abot's member message above that?
Oh, yeah, we gotta take those. Shout out Liam Best, $2 Australian dollar dono. He says, if Billups can manage these minutes, he's 1,000 IQ. Yeah, it's just basically playing people up a position. Hard at the 3, Nas at the 4 if things remain as is.
And, I mean, Dame's gonna like Gary Payton. Billups is gonna like Gary Payton. Absolutely. I understand why you want guys with that attitude. 100% need those guys on your team. Completely agree with that. I think we already kind of had that with Hart, and now if we trade Hart, it kind of doesn't make sense why we'd switch those two out. I thought we already had gotten that, but it's okay. I hope Gary Payton rubs off now on Sharp, assuming we keep Sharp. I don't know. Yep. I mean, that's the other thing. We could trade the rights to Sharp, I guess, and get much more money, but the way they talked about him, if they just trade him to save under the salary cap line, or to get Payton or something, that's pretty funny.
Yep. Let me thank Clearly a Bot for a 10-month member message. He says, thanks for streaming. The cult is alive and well. Absolutely, the cult is alive and well. That's what Blazers Uprise has been called by a few other people for some reason. They think we're a cult or something. I don't know. I'm not trying to brainwash you. But if you want to join a cult, if you are just, going about your daily life and you want a cult to join, then this is the cult for you. Maybe. Anyway, thank you for the member message, Clearly a Bot. And then Clearly a Bot, $5 dono says, anyway, GP2 contract doesn't take the full MLE this year, like if they paid him 6 or 7 this year. Also, thanks for streaming. I don't really get what you're asking, but
I think it's saying any chance we turn this into the tax mid-level instead of the full mid-level. He would have had to sign for 3 years, $21 million and $28 million. I don't think it's close enough to make that. You can't have incentives go over that $21 million. So I think we for sure signed him to more than the mid-level.
Crazy on you. The Kool-Aid is bomb as... I don't cuss on this channel. Shout Carson Dunn, $2 dono, says, some positivity before I fall asleep. Go Blazers, heart emoji. Thank you, Carson. Appreciate you, man. Have a good rest of your night. You are probably already asleep.
Bye, Carson.
Shout out to Wyatt Palmer, $2 dono, says, Ben Simmons for Sharp. Not ideal, but worth. We'd have to trade out $27 million of salary in order to match Ben Simmons. Sharp is $6 million of salary, so...
we have to wait. We haven't signed him officially yet, but we still have to wait 30 days after that to sign him. Right now, he would count as $0 in a trade.
Yep, and we'd have to make sure that we could bring in Ben Simmons and give up enough salary, so that we'd be under the hard cap.
Still tough.
I explained it earlier when I had the spreadsheet up. If you want to scroll back, I looked at some of the numbers. Maybe it might make more sense. It's kind of hard to explain. Pineapple says, "Why are there so many kinds of caps? Why not just have the hard cap and that's it? What's the point in having that and a salary cap?" I don't know. The NFL does a hard cap, but it gets complex too.
But you can still kind of work your way around it. Anyways, the NBA wanted to have flexibility to keep. It was supposed to be designed so small market teams could go over the cap to keep players, and you can keep your own free agents without losing them for nothing. Let's say right now, Anthony Simons. So if there was a hard cap line and Anthony Simons was worth $25 million, but Portland only had $6 million till the hard cap line or whatever, then we'd have to let Anthony Simons go for nothing. So it's just a way of making sure that teams can retain their own players if they want to. And there's ways, if you're creative as a GM, to maximize that. And I feel like we were sold that Cronin had his book, right? And he studied the GM for the CBA for years. He's going to know all these little secrets to maximizing cap space. And I feel like we just ruined that right away.
Yep. Thank you to Wyatt Palmer, $2 dono again. So has been watching for years and appreciate you both. Appreciate you, Wyatt. Thank you for being an OG member of the cult, man. Thank you for the support. Shout out Louis, $2 dono, says, can't we just sign and trade Gary Payton? No, we cannot. You can only sign and trade your own free agents. And even some of those are like, you can't really sign and trade them. So, no, we can't sign and trade another team's free agent.
Any free agents that sign with another team are ineligible to be traded till December 15th. So no sign and trades. And by that time, we have already locked in our roster and 2 months into the season. So, yes, not possible to do that.
Yep. Thank you, Louis, for the $2 dono. We are here to answer all your CBA questions. If you guys want to know more about the CBA, we're happy to answer whatever questions you may have. We've created a community where a lot of the people that are, OGs of this community, I feel like now understand the CBA to the point where like we can have conversations about it and just kind of like how everything's structured and it's fun. It's a little bit more in depth and I enjoy that part of it. Shout out Andy Marchant, $10 Australian dono, says, thanks for everything today, guys. Confuses everyone by the Gary Payton the second signing. Hopefully there's another move or two coming. I'm guessing we have 5s lined up for vet minimum. Who would you target? For the vet minimum, like Aldridge, if we need a backup center, would be okay. Like Serge Ibaka, backup center would be okay. I think he was okay last year. So there's some
Marcus Cousins, but it's tough relying on those guys to be get minutes at the center spot.
Yep.
And Aldridge has had heart problems. He had to retire not last season, but the season before, then came back and played. But there's nothing preventing that from flaring up again, too. So, unfortunately, if that happens, what are we doing at center then? I don't know. It's tough.
Yep. Anyway, let me thank XC Depp for a $4.20 donation. Says 9+ hours today. Appreciate the stream. Good job, fellas. Thank you, XC Depp. Yeah, this has actually been 10 hours, Eric. Because we were like a little over 8 hours for the last one. We're almost 2 hours into this one. 10 hours of streaming in one day after I slept about 2 hours.
Nice.
I'm slightly delirious right now. I'm actually impressed by myself.
All right, so yeah, good job. Ryan Monaco says John Collins works financially at $23 million and would fit our need at wing. What y'all think? What do you mean he works financially at $23 million?
What would you trade for him, Ryan?
How are we getting John Collins with the assets we have right now?
I mean, I think he'd barely fit under how much room we have below the hard cap. Like, barely.
But we still wouldn't have a center.
Maybe John Collins is our center.
John Collins is our center. So we're going small at center now, too?
Yep.
Might as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, might as well just fully embrace it. Yeah, like, you could trade Hart and Winslow, I guess, and, like, Keon, and then... But you'd have to trade, like, a first two. Maybe that would be good enough. Maybe they would like Hart. And then I think you'd have room to re-sign Nurkic, but, like, Grant at the 3 is kind of... I don't know. Like, I'd want to bring, like, Grant off the bench, and he ain't coming off the bench. It's like you're going to play Grant at the 3, and then Nas at the backup 4. It's just... I don't know how you'd make it work. Mm-hmm. Shout out Chris Branlin, a $10 dono. He says $1 an hour, such a deal. Thank you, Chris Branlin. Appreciate you, man.
And then right below that, Alex Coffer has a good question. Cap question: did they change the rule that you have to pay someone at a 5% increase? I remember Omer Ashik doing a huge backloaded deal a few years ago. Why can't that happen with Gary Payton? I think he meant the second. But that rule only applies to second-round players that have been in the league for 2 years. So a team has their early bird rights as a restricted free agent, but the most they can sign him for is 10 million. But then the seasons after that would be 3 years, so it's a full bird rights situation. So if you have the cap space in another year, you could technically use basically use your cap space 2 years from now to do that. Unfortunately for the Blazers, Gary Payton does not apply to that rule because he's not coming off of 2 years on a second round pick, and we aren't projected to have cap space next year currently. So even if that was possible, there's no way around that rule, unfortunately. And if you sign other teams' free agents in any other avenue, it's a 5% standard raise. If you sign your own free agents, you can sign them to an 8% raise, unless they're like a supermax player, then it becomes a little more. But so for the most part, it's 5% for other teams' free agents. And there was a situation a few years, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago with DeAnthony Melton, where he possibly could have had that same thing happen that Omar Ashik happened to. But I think for the most part, that kind of loophole is really tough to pull off.
Yeah, I don't know anything you said, so I'm just going to call you a moron.
Okay. So.
Nah, I mean, I didn't even know that rule, so I tried my best, but Eric knows even more than me on the CBA. But yeah, no, that's well explained. I was just teasing you. Joking.
Yeah.
Shout out to White Palmer, $2 donor, says, Watford Grant make a decent 3-4 for size, right? Yeah, but neither of them you'd want guarding threes on the ball. People think Grant's a little better on-ball defender than he is. He just doesn't get through screens well. I watched a ton of bubble tape to try and study Grant's defense, because analytically he doesn't grade out as a good on-ball defender, and I wanted to try and figure out why, or see if maybe it was just the analytics having some noise. I think he's okay when in isolation, but getting through screens he really struggles with. And when you're guarding stars, they're going to use a lot of screens, so I'm very worried about that if that's our plan, to have Grant be our on-ball stopper in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
So, clearly a bot. Did you also agree with that evaluation? What were your thoughts? He said he also watched some bubble games of Grant. I'm curious to see what you think. Anyway.
I'd be blazing. I'd laugh, so I have to read out this comment. GP2 literally is my favorite player. The hard cap makes him more memorable. Okay. That's funny.
Glad the hard cap works for you, man.
All right, so I know 4-8's joking here. He says you're a moron, Eric, because you don't want KD, LeBron, Steph, Jordan, Magic, or Bird. Well, I definitely don't want any of those last three now, but basically, KD requested a trade today, and this move makes it, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's very, very close to impossible for the Blazers to now trade for him, even if KD. What happens when we wake up tomorrow and KD's like, I want a team with the Blazers? Are we gonna back out of the deal with Gary Payton in a second? And I mean, I guess we could technically, but
I mean, we would know the KD situation by now. Right. I think.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm just funny. Saying, but yeah, we cannot trade Gary Payton. We cannot trade him until December 15th. So no moves regarding anyone we signed today, Anthony Simons included. We can't trade any of those players until December. So, and then with the Grant trade, we can still figure out something to where we maybe combine his salary. But if we're using the trade exception, if we're using the trade exception to bring him in, there's no real way to work that trade and add more salary to it without becoming really difficult once again with the hard cap.
Yep.
The hard cap will just fuel them. Yeah, okay. You're funny, man. I like it. Remaining cow space goes to Blevins. How'd this get past you morons? Well, okay, so
See, we are morons for that.
I
See,
guess,
like
yeah.
that's right. You're right. Yeah.
I guess yeah, Blevins could still be our starting center, I guess, right?
Yeah, he's strong enough.
Screw Nurkic, let's just re-sign Blevins as our starting center.
I mean, I'm sure Dame would be happy with that, right? So
yeah. I mean, it's his cousin after all.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm down. Blev got starting center. That's how we move forward from here. I was trying this whole stream. I was trying to figure out what Gary Payton II means. That's why I put "What does this mean" in the thumbnail and the title, and I figured it out. It means Kelvin Bludgeon's starting center.
Hey, Frank Dodge, are you a Blazer fan saying that? Still hoping to get THT?
Another short.
What's funny about that is
can't shoot.
What's funny about that is that's actually a trade that I think would work for Hart.
Oh God!
if we do something like that, man.
Oh no!
That's
I
hilarious.
mean, they don't trade Hart, right? I don't know what this
I don't know,
team is
man.
doing, man.
I don't know.
I mean, we will see. Shout out Daxton H for becoming a starter level member. Welcome to the club, Daxton. Appreciate you. Anyway, we're gonna have to get off soon because it's been 10 hours, man. I want to lay down, and we'll be live again tomorrow at some point. If any news pops off, we'll be there to cover it. And yeah, so join our Discord and turn on. We tag everybody in our Discord server every time we drop anything or go live. Or you can follow our channel's Twitter page, link in the description box below. You can follow me and Derek on Twitter, links also in the description box below. Anything else, Eric, before I pass out? Because I'm about to pass out.
Thank you to everyone who joined our streams at any point today, even the ones that insulted us. We appreciate you all for tuning in, and hope to see you guys on future videos. And just hopefully, if you are not fans of us and you still come in here and comment anyway, I just expect you guys next time to come with a little better retort and basketball discussion than we're morons. Yeah. So hopefully you guys improve on that. Let's do some research and get that stuff done for next time. But thank you everyone for watching.
Yep, appreciate y'all. We'll see what's next for this team. I'm looking forward to finding out, I guess.
Are you?
Not really. Curiosity reasons. I don't know if I'm excited to find out, but I'm curious, like a cat. Anyway, thank you to everybody who donated. Appreciate your support. Thank you to everybody who became a channel member. Appreciate that as well. And we are out of here. We'll catch you sometime tomorrow. I guess later today. Until then. What? Were you going to say something?
No, I just said, yeah, later today.
Yep, later today. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.